All right, thank you so much for joining us for Up Close with Skilled Trades BC. I've got Rod Bianchi of Chief Strategy and Compliance Officer of Skilled Trades BC and Sean Cox, Manager of Skilled Trades Certification. They're here to give you an overview of the new Skilled Trades Certification system and how you, as an employer or employer, can access resources to help you through the transition. So at this point, I'm going to ask Sean to pop open his camera and say hello. There he is.
We're here. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon. I'm blending in.
There you go.
Thanks, Rod. Sean, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'll be in the background. If anyone has any questions, I'll keep an eye on the Q&A box and the chat function and alert you to it. But in the meantime, it's your show.
Thank you, Matthew. As Matthew indicated, my name is Rod Bianchini, Chief Strategy and Compliance Officer. I'm joined by Sean Cox, Manager of Skilled Trades Certification. We're gonna tag team this presentation. We're gonna take you on a bit of a journey throughout our journey to become Skilled Trades BC, and hopefully open up for some questions that we can answer at the end of the presentation. But before we start, really want to acknowledge that Skilled Trades BC is located on the unceded Coast Salish territory, traditional land of the Musqueam people. We want to acknowledge this as guests of this territory and traditional lands. Feel free to think about the territories you're on as well. Like I said, overview. Going to talk a little bit about Skilled Trades BC, our new expanded mandate, hone in on some specific around skilled trades certification. And I'd like to say at this point that it's synonymous with compulsory certification or mandatory certification, which I know is the wording that's used in other jurisdictions across Canada. So very quickly around Skilled Trades BC, who are we? We're a Crown Corporation. We're funded through the BC government. We're formally known as the Industry Training Authority, and our mandate is really through the Ministry of Post-Secondary Education and Future Skills. We advance and manage the BC skilled trades system by supporting our customers developing program standards and funding skilled trades training. And I believe all the other provinces in the country have a similar organization that governs the apprenticeship programs as well. We have close to about 10,000 youth participating in our youth programs. We're deeply committed to developing and supporting equity, diversity, and inclusion programs to create more welcoming environments. And we're committed to working in partnership with Indigenous communities to deliver the skilled trades programs. Just a little bit of numbers here. We're approximately 4,000 apprentices and over 10,000 employers who sponsor these apprentices in our province. When we look at that, you can see that the impact of skilled trades certification can be quite broad. And we support program standards. We issue the credentials to trades workers to recognize their value of certification, and this includes setting up all the required workshops that not only create but support and modify any kind of standards in conjunction with the interprovincial Red Seal program across the country. And we oversee approximately 100 trades programs that meet the needs of our economy and labor force at the moment. We also work in collaboration with about 40 training providers across the province. And this is a crucial collaborative effort in terms of them being able to deliver our trades training. And this is that in-school component that is complemented by the on-site training by some fabulous employers here in British Columbia. So I'd just like to spend a couple of seconds on how we transformed into Skilled Trades BC. It's been quite a journey over the last 2 or 3 years as we transformed from the Industry Training Authority. And really these are important kind of points in our timeline. Around June 2021, then Premier John Horgan announced moving forward with skilled trades certification, and that was really the key point in signaling that BC would reintroduce compulsory trades in our province. In the summer of 2021, Skilled Trades BC engaged with industry and employers on 4 major regulation areas, and Sean will get into those later on in the presentation. And in March, the government introduced the Skilled Trades BC Act in the legislature. And this, in addition to introducing skilled trades certification, changed our name from Industry Training Authority to Skilled Trades BC. And that all came into effect December 1st, 2022, just last year. And with that introduction, we were given a broader mandate. And that broader mandate really rests on three main pillars, and that's raising the profile of skilled trades, modernizing our approach to apprenticeship, and implementing skilled trades certification. I want to briefly present on the broader mandate in these three main areas in the following slides. When we look at raising the profile of skilled trades, we were excited by the expanded mandate and the new name, which will make it easier for people across the province to understand who and what we do. It was oftentimes difficult to make people understand who ITA was. You know, we often got confused with internet companies and things like that. They didn't really quite make the connection to trades. So seeing the word skilled in our name on a personal level makes me quite happy, actually. We want to build awareness. We want to work with government and partners to help grow awareness and the value of skilled trades professionals, and helping to ensure that these careers are recognized for what they are. They're highly skilled trades, they're well-paying, and they're sustainable. And not only in their own right, they also provide a phenomenal platform to take off into other careers as well. If I look at my own journey, I'm a certified trades worker that hasn't worked on the tools for many years, but I still draw on a lot of the things that I've learned in the trades to make my career successful. We want to remove barriers. We want to promote the skilled trades as viable careers, including to people that are underrepresented, through an equity, diversity, and inclusion strategy. Some of our efforts include collaborating with Indigenous communities to bring community-led training to their homes, and supporting programs like Be More Than a Bystander and Builders Code to promote inclusive working environments. We really committed to both all of these programs, or not only organizationally, but also from a promotional level. We got a new strategic plan, and we want to build it on a 3-year timeline that supports our expanded mandate. Customers are at the center of what we do. Then there's a new portal and other digitally enabled capabilities being developed to help customers get the service they need and when they need it. New apprenticeship advisors, we've increased that number in the field, and our apprenticeship advisors, are really the key doorway regionally to have people get access not only to our information, but also our supports. We got a new self-serving portal to allow for our clients to access their apprenticeship information on the go and make requests. We want to leverage data. One of the things historically at the Industry Training Authority is that we had a lot of data, but we didn't leverage it as well as we could have. And this will better support evidence-based decision-making and enhance organizational performance for the whole system, not just us. And on that note, I'm going to pass it on to Sean to talk specifically about skilled trade certification, and as I mentioned previously, synonymously known as mandatory certification or compulsory trades. Over to you, Sean.
Thanks, Rod. Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned at the start of the presentation, my name's Sean Cox. I'm the manager of the Skilled Trade Certification Department. We have a team of 13 advisors situated all throughout the province of BC, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the slides. So what is skilled trade certification? Commonly referred to as mandatory or compulsory trades across Canada. We have called it something different, although it still means the same thing. There have been 10 trades identified through various consultations to be the first ones out of the gate, for lack of a better term. And we've broken them up into three different clusters. The first cluster is the electrical cluster, and you can see construction electrician, industrial electrician, and power line technician. Then you've got the mechanical cluster, refrigeration, which I'm sure is near and dear to many people's hearts on the call. Gas A and B, steam fitter, pipe fitter, and sheet metal worker. And then we have the automotive trades with heavy duty technician, automotive service tech, and auto body collision. A few things with the timing of this are the first 7 trades we're focusing on are the trades within the electrical and the mechanical cluster. They are currently in a 12-month transition period leading up to December 1st, 2023. And by then, the legislation requires that anyone working within one of those trades needs to be a registered apprentice or a certified journey person. Then in 2024, that will be the transition year for the automotive trades. Still the same thing. You need to be a registered apprentice or a certified journey person if you're working in one of those 3 trades. Why is it important? Well, the government in British Columbia has identified that within the next decade, there's 85,000 skilled trades career opportunities for people, and you need to be certified to be in the running for one of those jobs. So by implementing skilled trade certification, we're getting more people into the trade system. More people are hopefully going to come out certified, thus being, you know, an option for one of these jobs. The other big thing around it is that, as Rod mentioned before, BC was the only province that didn't have any compulsory or mandatory certification within the trades. We did about 2 decades ago, and it was removed. So by bringing this back into BC, it brings us in alignment with the rest of the country. This slide here, just a couple of visuals on that. You'll see the table on the left. BC is the column that's got no ticks in the box, whereas every other province does. It's worth noting that not all trades are universally seen as compulsory or mandatory across the province. You will see, and we'll have a look at the graph on the right side. That's the number of compulsory trades per province. Again, you'll see BC at the start with none. That's now changed, but you'll see the other provinces there, and it sort of varies between sort of, you know, 4 or 5 up to 25. So what we will do, we'll fit in the middle of the other provinces, but most importantly, we are aligned that we do require certification for these trades. Along with the government's engagement leading up to the implementation of skilled trade certification, we at the then Industry Training Authority did a pretty extensive in consultation with industry in the province, and we focused on 3. I'm just fading in and out there, apologies for that. And we focused on 4 key policy areas, and that was exemptions, temporary authorisations, a ratio for journey person to apprentices, and then scope of work descriptions. We and I led this, and along with Rod, we sat in on many meetings, workshops with apprentices, employer sponsors, unions, Indigenous partners, equity-seeking groups, even training providers and other industry partners such as associations, to make sure that we heard all voices around the province relating to skilled trade certification, specifically with those 4 items there. And then upon the wrap-up of those consultations and engagements, we put forward recommendations to the government, and then that went into the development of the regulations. And you'll see, so I won't go through the metrics there on the left-hand side, but you'll see some numbers of different things in terms of the people we spoke to and the different groups and whatnot. How and when it will be implemented? Well, as Rod mentioned before, December 1st, 2022 was when the legislation came into play. So technically it's implemented then, but it was really important that because this hasn't been in the province for the best part of 2 decades, we needed a transition period to get out and raise awareness and education around it. So we are currently in that 1-year transition period now, which is going to take us up until December 1st, 2023. And that is where my team comes in, our 13 advisors, and we are out in the province speaking to every impacted employer and apprentice sponsor in that are within those first 7 trades. Again, we're not doing the automotive trades at the moment. Our focus is on the electrical and the mechanical trades. And the team is out there raising awareness and letting people know that, you know, if you do have uncertified workers, you have 12 months to either get them into be a level challenger and a trade qualifier pathway, which we'll talk a little bit more in the next couple of slides, or registered as an apprentice. And then also just give them time to ask questions to make sure that they're compliant, or if they're not compliant, how they can become compliant. And we're really working with people where one of the key messages is to employers is that, you know, this switch hasn't been flicked and we're moving straight into compliance and enforcement. There's a real education to compliance model that we stand behind, and that 12-month period enables us to educate employers. So am I impacted? So if you're a registered apprentice in one of the 10 trades, you are 10 skilled trade certification trades, you are not impacted. You just continue to work, and the message to employers is just get your apprentices through the system and get them out to be certified. That's crucial. If you're a tradesperson, being a certified journey person in one of those 10 trades, no action required. And obviously, if you're an apprentice or a tradesperson in a trade that's not in the skilled trade certification trades, then nothing for you to do. You just continue on working as is. Who is impacted? Well, impacted people are uncertified people. And we want to be really clear with employers that if you have uncertified people working in one of these trades and they're doing scope of trade in there, then there's 3 separate pathways for them to become certified. So the first is for them to become an apprentice. If they've got a worker that has little to no experience, then first-year apprentice sign up. That's what we would recommend. If you've got uncertified workers that has some experience between 1,800 hours and 5,400 hours, then potentially they could be a level challenger. So they can challenge a level of an apprenticeship, depending on the hours experience that they have, and then they can. I keep blaring in this camera. Then they could be slotted in at a level 2 or a level 3 apprentice. Or they can be a trade qualifier, and a trade qualifier is an experienced worker that has more than 9,000 hours, and they can attest to that, and the employer can attest to that. Then they can challenge the certification, and rather than them starting from level 1 or being slotted in at a level 2 or level 3, they can challenge the final exam, and upon completion of that exam, they can get their certificate, their journey person status, and continue to work. So we have 3 pathways to certification, and by and large, all uncertified people can fall into one of these brackets moving forward. So level challenger, why become it? Why it's a good option? Well, you get certified for a level, and you get your experience acknowledged, and you can be slotted in at the right time. And then also you can be fast-tracked to be an apprentice. You don't have to start at level 1. You can just be put into level 2 or level 3, and you can just go from there. Here's just a bit of an overview of where an uncertified worker could potentially be slotted. So if you're 1,800 hours there or thereabouts, you could be a level 1. If you've got around 3,600 hours, level 2, and then level 3, 5,400 hours. We do, with the implementation of skilled trade certification, we have developed a self-assessment tool on our website. So what we do is we steer people, if they're unsure about what level they could be at, we would ask them to do the self-assessment. It's not a test, it's just them rating their knowledge and experience on different competencies. And upon completion of that, if you get over 65% on that self-assessment, then you would be deemed suitable to challenge a level, and then you go through the process and the application form and go from there. So for an experienced worker, this is the individual that has 9,000 hours. Again, it's a really good way to have your hours acknowledged, and you can become certified. As it says, it validates your knowledge and skills. You can be certified without having to start your apprenticeship. And then the other thing as well is that depending on where you are on your career journey, there are other options. If you're sort of at the tail end of your career, we have an option for that as well, and which I'll get into a little bit more. But certainly for a trade qualifier, you need to have a minimum of 9,000 hours in your trade. It needs to be verified by your employer. So it's not enough just to come to SkilledTradesBC and say, I have 9,000 hours. There's an application form. Your employer or employers, if you've got hours from other employers, need to attest to that and sign the documents. And then you will be put into an application process, which then you'll be verified again by third-party assessors, just to make sure you're suitable to be in front of the exam. The last thing we want to do as an organisation is put people in front of exams that they're not ready to sit, and it just sets them up for failure. We really want to do our work and get the people in front of the exams that they're ready to go. One of the key points with challenging the exam is that you have to have experience of at least 70% of tasks and activities within the scope of work of a trade. That's because you're going to be tested on that on your exam. So if you're only doing 10 or 20% of scope of trade, even though you have those hours, we would really need to dig a bit deeper and just make sure, where that is. And potentially, if you don't have that 70%, you can go back to your employer and say, look, I've got some gaps in this area, I need experience in that, or potentially take refresher courses and things like that as well. As I mentioned before a few slides ago, we also want to acknowledge long-term workers, and a long-term worker is someone that has 36,000 hours that may be uncertified but working in the trade. So we have the ability to issue a temporary authorisation for anyone that meets this criteria. Again, just because you have 36,000 hours doesn't mean you get a temporary authorisation. There's an application process that's being developed and will become available later in the year. But this would be for anyone that is going to get off the tools in the next couple of years, maybe 5 years, and doesn't want to go to school, or even if they get off the tools and then they move into the front office. But during the next 5 years, they can apply for the temporary authorisation and they will still be allowed to work in a skilled trade certification trade as long as they've got the temporary authorisation. Again, there is a process that is starting. It's going to start at the end of the year. But if you have workers that fit into this category, please let them know that there is options available for them to continue to work and see out retirement. It's worth noting that this is only available for 5 years. And if also, depending on where you are in your career journey, if you're in your mid-40s or early 50s and you still want to work until you're 65, this is probably not an option for you, because at the end of your 5 years, you're going to be asked to get certified again. So again, really geared towards someone that's at the end of their career and looking to get out. Why is it good for an employer? Well, it formally recognises the skills and raising profile of the trades. As Rod mentioned before, part of our mandate is to raise the profile, and by getting people certified, it does that. It helps build a strong and trained workforce and sets your business up for success. And then you can also attract top talent. And the other thing as well, like what we're hearing with our engagements that we're currently doing, employers like the fact that they can publicise that they are compliant with skilled trade certification, and they want decals to put it on their van or their offices. So it gives a bit of confidence to the public that everyone is, compliant and working within the rules and the regulations. Working in the scope of in the trade, in the STC trade, there's a lot of discussion around scope of trade. So basically, the way that we define scope of trade is any task and activity that's within the program outline within your skilled trade certification trade. Anyone that's doing those tasks and activities needs to be registered as an apprentice, or they need to be a certified journey person. One of the engagements we did that I mentioned before was around scope of trade definition, and we have adopted the Red Seal occupational standard definition for scope of work. So if you're wondering what that is, I would steer you to the Red Seal page or even our SkilledTradesBC page, and you'll see a description there of what scope of trade is. One of the big things that with the introduction of skilled trade certification is now the introduction of a ratio. Again, other provinces have this, so this may not be news to a lot of people on the call, but our ratio for the electrical and the mechanical skilled trades is 2 to 1, meaning for every 2 apprentices you have to have 1 journey person supervising them. Part of the engagement work that we did, we heard this from industry, that 2 to 1 was by and large what people thought would be a manageable ratio number. It is a little bit difficult in some area of the provinces, and I'll talk a little bit about that later with what we can do there. But a few key points with the ratio. We don't count a level 4 apprentice in the ratio. And the way we define a level 4 apprentice for the ratio is anyone that has completed all level 3 requirements of an apprenticeship. So you don't technically have to be enrolled into a level 4 program. As long as you have completed all your work-based hours and technical training within level 3, then you will not be counted in the ratio. Also, a trade qualifier working under a temporary authorisation, again, the trade qualifier is someone that's doing that exam. While they're waiting for the exam, they can be issued a temporary authorisation. They won't be counted in that. And the other thing that's really important to us is that any employer that is taking on a student that has a work experience component in their program, of their trade program, they won't be counted in the ratio. And they're for people like employers that take on work experience students from a school district or a foundation program here in BC. If you take someone in and give them a week or 2 weeks or a month, whatever the work experience component is, they will be excluded from the ratio. We want to encourage as many employers as possible to give opportunities to school kids, especially in the K-12 system. And if you want to take in 10, fantastic, we would pat you on the back, but we don't want to punish you at the same time for your ratio. So those individuals will be excluded. In terms of the ratio, in terms of who can supervise, in terms of the one we're talking about now, that's basically a journey person. So anyone that's certified, whether they're certified in BC or from out of province or from another province in Canada, as long as they have a certification from the issuing body there, then they can supervise. And then also that long-term worker, that was the individual that has 36,000 hours. If that individual has been issued a temporary authorisation from SkilledTradesBC, then that person can supervise for the ratio. Again, that person is not seen as a journey person. They're just working under a temporary authorisation, but yet they can supervise an apprentice at that time. So this is probably one of the most important slides out of the deck. I know there's a lot of information here, but for employers, what we ask employers to do is make sure all your employees who carry out work in the scope of trade for a skilled trade certification trade is either registered or a certified journey person. Maintain records of qualifications to work. So one of the abilities that the legislation allows us to do is actually come onto site and ask for those certification the numbers and the names of who they're attached to. So we say to employers and a lot of employers already do this, but if you don't already do it, start getting organised, collate it all together. So then when we do come to site and ask for it, it's as simple as handing us a document and then we can check it out and validate it. Meet the supervision ratio of 2 to 1. As mentioned before, we do have the ability to issue an adjustment to that ratio if you're struggling with that. We do know we're all out in the province of BC at the moment, and it's very different from the Lower Mainland to Prince Rupert to over to Cranbrook to even to some certain parts on Vancouver Island. So we know that journey people are hard to find, but what we ask for employers is that if you're struggling to meet the 2 to 1 ratio, please reach out to us now. Let's start having those conversations, figure out how we can help. And then if people just can't recruit journey people to help close the gaps, then we can issue an adjustment for a certain period of time, and then we'll come back and see how you're going. Become an employer sponsor to uncertified workers if they want to get into apprenticeship. So one of those pathways for the inexperienced worker, sign them up as an apprentice. It's really easy to do. You've just got to ring our customer service line. It takes 10 minutes. If they don't work out, you can deregister them, but just for peace of mind for yourself and for employers and to make sure they're compliant, sign them up. And then the other thing that you can do is just support any uncertified workers if they want to challenge, whether they want to challenge the level or they want to challenge the whole certification, just support them. They may need some exam supports in terms of just giving them, an hour off, once a week to do some study, or if they need to close some gaps in their competencies and they need experience in other lines of work, really just get behind them and help them get along to that certification, because it'll help you as an employer out, and it will certainly help them as an employee out. I think this is the last slide. So along with this, the provincial government has thrown a lot of money at getting people into certification, and that money goes towards enhanced individual customer support. So as Rod mentioned, we've got apprenticeship advisors, my team, the 13 people out talking, and also our customer service team. Additional funding has been given towards things like refresher training, whatnot. We've waived the exam fee, so anyone wanting to challenge a level or a certification, they don't have to pay the exam fee for one of those 10 trades. Increased accommodations and learning supports. We've got translators for non-English speakers. We've got learning supports for individuals that need help with exams. We know that there may be people that are going to have to sit an exam that haven't sat an exam or haven't been in a classroom for 20 or 30 or 40 years, even longer. So we've got exam supports there. And then again, province-wide engagement opportunities. We did that at the start for these 7 trades. when we get into the automotive trades and as we bring on more trades in the future, there's going to be opportunities for employers in BC to have some input into the regulations and things like that. And like we said, we take all that information we hear and we package it all up and we give it to the government, and they really take note of what industry is saying and the employers are saying out there. So if you do see an email asking for input, I always say just grab it with both hands. That's your opportunity to get your voice across and hopefully have your input reflected in the regulations. Not all input is taken and put in there, but I know from our engagements, a lot of stuff we heard was put into the regulations. So it's a good opportunity there. That's it. That's it for our slides around skilled trade certification and skilled trades BC. We can open it up. Well, Matthew, I'll throw it back to you and maybe facilitate some of the questions, and me and Rod will do our best to answer them.
Yeah, absolutely. So as of right now, there's no questions in the Q&A or webinar chat, but do you have a slide of maybe or contact information that people can reach out?
Yeah, we do. So
yeah,
I lied. We don't have the next slide. Wait. There it is there. So what you're seeing now is obviously our website, a direct link to our skilled trade certification page. We tend to steer all the all the inquiries through customer service, and then it comes over to our department. What we find, Matthew, is that a lot of questions that came in, even though they're about a skilled trade certification trade, they're not really a skilled trade certification topic. It could be a certification topic which customer service can answer on the spot, or it could be something else. So we have a single entryway. But in saying that, and I'm more than happy, Matthew, for you to share my email to the participants today. If people want to contact me directly, if they're in BC, then I can connect with them.
Yeah, fantastic. You've listed the websites there as well as social media too that people can.
There is. You'll just have to look at SkilledTradesBC on LinkedIn or. I'm not the most up to date with the social media stuff, Matthew, but I know that we're on all platforms and we're pretty easy to find.
No, absolutely. I'm just this is rolling out. It's those are good places to kind of keep up to date on what's going on as well.
Yeah, there's dedicated social media.
Yeah,
fantastic. I'm going to let people just people in the chat, if they want to ask a question, please, now for the time. I'm going to take this brief break just to talk about a few more upcoming webinars that we've got. Tomorrow we have the high efficiency heating for high ceiling and large spaces with Gary Dummer of Superior Radiant Products. Then we have top hiring mistakes and how to avoid them coming up on April 25th, followed by another refrigeration seminar from Phil Boudreau. And a bunch of cool things. So check out hrai.ca/events. You can see webinars like this. And then you also check out HRAI's YouTube page as well, because that's where we post them after the fact. And you'll find a good portfolio of really informative presentations that we've had over the last few months. No questions as of yet, but I think that's just the sign of a good presentation. And if they want to...
we'll take that, Matthew.
We'll take it, Matthew.
But I want to thank you both for your time on this, just giving us information on this very important program, and hope you guys can come back later in the year, maybe share an update or just other additional tips.
Yeah, happy to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, up to you. We can wait a couple minutes, but I think we're good for now, and people have your contact information.
Sure. Great. Yep. Don't hesitate to get in contact with me for the BC located folks, and we'll try and answer any questions.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much, Sean. Rod, appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks for organising, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.